We are live on YouTube. We are live on TikTok. How's it going, everyone? We are just a little over an hour away from Thursday night football. I cannot wait to see how Mike White does tonight. Carson Wentz back in action for the Colts. See some people in the YouTube live and the TikTok live. Thanks for tuning in. We are live once again on YouTube and TikTok. We got the New York Jets versus the Indianapolis Colts tonight. Mike White coming off a 400-yard game against a good Bengals defense. The Jets coming off a big win. It's going to be an interesting game. The Colts are 10.5-point favorites in this game. And I think there's a chance that the Colts just completely destroy the Jets. All right, we are live on YouTube and TikTok. Thanks for tuning in, guys. If you're tuned into the YouTube live, the true OG YouTube live people, hit the like button. Appreciate it. I know you're all probably already subscribed if you're tuning in 1 minute into the live stream, so I do appreciate you. What is going on, Julian? Should I start Jonathan Taylor? Yeah, let's get right to it. Who are the must-start guys tonight for me? Jonathan Taylor, 100%. He's the first guy. You absolutely have to start him. I like Jonathan Taylor a lot. His props tonight have only kept going up, though they are still the same on PrizePicks. They haven't moved really since they posted them. Yarjma, how's it going, man? Wentz or Burrow? We have the first start-sit question of the night. Carson Wentz versus Joe Burrow. I do like Carson Wentz tonight. I think Carson Wentz can have a fantastic game. 10.5-point favorites. The Jets secondary really doesn't scare me. Like, Joe Burrow still had a good game last week against this secondary. That being said, I think you got to go Joe Burrow. I think you have to go Joe Burrow. Let me pull up my QB rankings really quickly. You can see these on the YouTube live, by the way. If you're watching live on TikTok, on the YouTube live, link is in the TikTok bio. You can see my top 10 rankings for every single position, which you cannot see on the TikTok live. Let me pull this up. My top 10 QBs for week 9. And Joe Burrow is not in the top 10 this week. He's not in the top 10. Take a quick look here. Let's see. The Bengals are playing the Browns. Yeah, you have to go Joe Burrow. You still have to go Joe Burrow over Carson Wentz. Am I playing Crowder tonight? Yes, guys, we are playing Jameson Elite Crowder tonight. He is on my guys that you just have to start tonight. You just have to do it. You have Jameson Elite Crowder. You have to start him tonight. You have to start him and Michael Carter. Those are the two Jets guys that you kind of just have to start tonight if you have them in fantasy. Both these guys, with Mike White starting, have such a big receiving floor. Like, it's really a floor. I don't know how big the ceiling is for either guy. Like, it's the Jets. I'm not going to be surprised when the Jets have a game and they don't score more than 2 touchdowns. So I don't know what the real ceiling is for either of these guys. But Michael Carter, man, the floor is there. He had 15 carries last week, 14 targets. He had 9 targets the week before that. He's played over 70% of the snaps for the Jets 2 consecutive weeks. He's got over 15 points 2 consecutive weeks. He had 30 points last week. So, yeah, you got to start Michael Carter 100%. But you also have to start Jameson Elite Crowder, who now has he's played 4 games this season. He has at least 6 targets in all 4. And he's coming off a game where he led the Jets receivers in targets with 9. He had 8 catches, 84 yards last week. And the Colts secondary really isn't that scary. They haven't been very good this season. They actually have been much worse than I expected. So, yeah, you got to start Jameson Elite Crowder tonight. You got to start Michael Carter tonight. And, of course, you got to start Jonathan Taylor. And Michael Pittman's also been balling out. So you got to start Michael Pittman as well. Michael Pittman is having a not-so-quiet breakout season. Wentz or Daniel Jones? That's another tough one. I do like Wentz tonight. And Daniel Jones is a tough one for me because the weapons have just been so injured for Daniel Jones. Like, I actually think Daniel Jones is having a good season for what I expected from Daniel Jones. Like, I think the Giants should keep Daniel Jones for next season and more years to come with the improvements we've seen from him this season. But against the Raiders, I think you should probably go Carson Wentz over Daniel Jones this week. I would go Carson Wentz over Daniel Jones this week. Saints defense or Colts defense? I like the Saints defense. I don't know how you couldn't like the Saints defense. I like the Colts defense too. Look, I know that Mike White threw for 400 yards in his last game against a good defense. The Bengals defense has been better than the Colts defense this year. And Mike White threw for 400 yards. But he really, we shouldn't expect him to be good still. A lot of people are really hopping on the Mike White bandwagon really, really, really fast. I'm not really on the Mike White bandwagon yet, and I expect the Jets to get destroyed in this game. To me, there's a better chance that the Jets get destroyed in this game than there is that the Jets win this game. They're 10.5-point underdogs. I'm actually taking the Colts against the spread tonight too. 10.5 points. He threw for 405 yards. He completed over 80% of his passes last week. This is Mike White. For 400 yards, but he really he did not push the ball down the field at all. Only 9 yards per attempt. It's actually higher than I would have thought. He did throw 2 interceptions, though. So, I think I would go the Saints, though, over the Colts. I really do like the Saints defense against the Falcons. The Falcons are just, without Calvin Ridley, the Falcons are going to be a tough team offensively. Carter or Edmonds? Oh, Bennett. I like both these guys, but I think you got to start Michael Carter. Again, he had 14 targets. 14. Edmonds does not have 14 targets in his range of outcomes. And Michael Carter does. I don't think he's going to see 14 targets, but he could realistically see 10. I wouldn't be shocked with 10. Hey, Sam, D-Hop, Darrell Williams. Sam, is that hot hat still wet when you made that TikTok? Yeah, I've been drying this. Actually, that's so funny. I've been drying this for literally since this is the first time really I've worn it since that video. I got water all over my apartment too. My girlfriend was not happy, but it is dry. It is dry now. Thursday night question: Ty Johnson or JaMychal Hasty if Elijah Mitchell is out? All right, obviously though, Luca, you got to make this Thursday night decision tonight. So we're not going to know if Elijah Mitchell's out, and I don't expect Elijah Mitchell to be out. You also have Jeff Wilson, which is good. That's good. I don't think he's going to play this week. I'm glad you're starting Michael Carter, though. Hopefully that bails you out from everything. But yeah, I think you should just go with Michael Carter or Ty Johnson. Honestly, I don't think that's a horrible 1-2 punch. It's actually a pretty safe play. In a head-to-head matchup, which most fantasy leagues, that's how they work, playing two guys from the same team actually isn't always the worst thing. Ty Johnson, Michael Carter combined are going to go over 10 targets tonight. Mike White does not push the ball down the field. So I don't hate that at all. Though, of course, if Elijah Mitchell's healthy, you would be playing Elijah Mitchell over Ty Johnson. So, and I do think Elijah Mitchell is going to be healthy. But JaMychal Hasty, yeah, I'm not trusting him. Thursday night football question: Allen Lazard or James Conner this week? Or should I pick up Crowder? Yeah, Pierce, I was about to give you a lot of heat here because I didn't see this being a Thursday night question until you mentioned Jameson Elite Crowder. And yeah, go pick up Jameson Elite Crowder. Go see if Jameson Crowder is available. He had 9 targets last week. And no, you can't be starting Allen Lazard. The Packers are in some trouble, guys. The Packers are in some serious trouble. I don't have a very strong opinion about Jordan Love because we haven't seen him play yet. But I don't feel like Jordan Love's going to be good. My money's on Jordan Love not being good. It feels more likely that he's not good than that he's good. And so, yeah, I'm not in on Allen Lazard this week. I definitely would rather Jameson Elite Crowder. Elijah Mitchell, Jacobs for Tyler Lockett, T. Lockett, Moss. I think that's a pretty good trade, honestly. I think it's pretty fair. I like Elijah Mitchell, though. It'll be interesting to see what happens to Elijah Mitchell's workload, though, once Jeff Wilson returns, because I think Jeff Wilson's going to have a role. Guys, we're live on TikTok and YouTube right now. If you come to the YouTube live, link is in the TikTok bio. You can see my top 10 running backs, quarterbacks, wide receivers, tight ends, all in the YouTube live, just scrolling at the bottom of the screen. If you are in the YouTube live, hit that like button and subscribe button, guys, if you haven't yet. Do I play Ty Johnson over Boston Scott? Oh, man, that's a tough one. You're really scraping the bottom of the barrel there. No, I think you got to go Boston Scott. Boston Scott gets his Chargers, right? I think they play the Chargers this week. Chargers have been the worst rush defense in the NFL if you adjust for strength of opponent. Well, Jonathan Taylor and Michael Carter both score a touchdown today. The odds of Jonathan Taylor scoring a touchdown today are just so insanely high. It's over 75% chance Jonathan Taylor scores a touchdown. That's what the player prop odds look like too. Jonathan Taylor has scored, I think, in 5 straight games, and the Jets have allowed the most touchdowns to running backs in the NFL. So yeah, he's probably scoring. Michael Carter, I think, is a little bit less likely, but yeah, they both are probably going to score TDs tonight. Michael Carter's looked really good, guys. I'm excited to watch him tonight. Do I play Wentz tonight, or do I wait to see about Taysom Hill or pick up Tannehill? Yeah, I'm pretty hesitant to be starting Taysom Hill, and I understand the appeal of Taysom Hill. Usually, I feel like I would be in on a guy like Taysom Hill who can run the ball, and I like quarterbacks that run. We want quarterbacks that run. We want running backs that catch in fantasy football. And he has a pretty decent matchup against the Falcons, too. But he hasn't looked good this season. I know he's coming off a concussion. I expect him to play. It seems like he's trending towards playing. He really has looked really, really bad throwing the ball, a lot of times this season. I feel like he could struggle so much as a thrower that he's just not the type of rushing quarterback we want. So I think there's a good floor there. I'm just not very convinced about Taysom Hill's ceiling. The other quarterback you mentioned here was Ryan Tannehill. And I actually am intrigued by Ryan Tannehill more moving forward. He's been better than expected this season. And with no King Henry, no Derrick Henry, like the Titans they almost just have to throw more. They can't run the same offense without Derrick Henry. The whole offense was Derrick Henry. He was getting 30-plus carries a game. It was insane. Against the Rams, I know the Rams defense is good, but the Rams offense is also going to put up points. Honestly, I think I might go Ryan Tannehill out of all three of these guys. I do like Carson Wentz tonight too, though. I think it's between Wentz and Ryan Tannehill. I wouldn't be risking it with Taysom Hill yet. Start Carter. Yeah, so really quick, if you're on the YouTube Live, you can see on the screen right now the players that you must start tonight. That I think you must start. You have to start Jonathan Taylor. Obviously, we should see no Jonathan Taylor questions. Jonathan Taylor's gone over 100 yards 4 consecutive games. He scored a touchdown in, I think, 5 consecutive games. Jonathan Taylor is just dominating. And the Jets have allowed, I think, the 3rd most points to running backs this season. Pull that up really quickly. But it hasn't been good for the Jets against running backs, and partly just because they get destroyed in most games. They've actually allowed the most points to running backs this season. The most points to running backs. So you got to start Jonathan Taylor, but you also have to start Michael Carter, who had an insane 14 targets last week and 9 targets the week before that. Mike White checks down the ball a lot. That's good news for Jameson Elite Crowder, who you also have to start tonight. Guys, I'm all in on Jameson Elite Crowder tonight. Walter actually did identify one Jameson Elite Crowder prop. It was over 5.5 catches, I think. So there's your free prop pick for the night. And I liked the props already. So when Walter confirmed my opinion about Jameson Elite Crowder, I could not hold myself back. So I'm on Jameson Elite Crowder's receiving prop tonight, receptions prop tonight. I took Jameson Elite Crowder's the first touchdown score and a score TD. So I like Jameson Crowder tonight, man. I'm excited for him. And there's no Corey Davis. So I think Jameson Crowder could see his most routes run of the season tonight. Lamar or Burrow? Yeah, you always have to start Lamar Jackson. Carter or Tony? Yes, start Michael Carter. Start Michael Carter. Wentz or Jordan Love? Definitely Wentz. Definitely Wentz. Jordan Love is just such a wild card. And it's a wild card that I really am not going to be risking even a single penny on this week, unless I'm betting against him. Thursday night question. TNQ. Ty Johnson, Mike Davis, or Carlos Hyde? Yeah, if James Robinson doesn't play this week, the answer is Carlos Hyde. I think I would probably go Mike Davis over Ty Johnson too. Javonte or Moss, please. Those guys are very similar for me. The Bills, who do the Bills get this week? The Bills are up against the Jaguars. Yeah, you got to go Zach Moss. 100% Zach Moss. Is Kittle coming back this week? Ethan, it looks like Kittle's coming back this week. And Christian McCaffrey might come back this week too. And if he doesn't come back this week, it's probably going to be next week. So some exciting news in a few days of just brutal NFL news. Horrible NFL news. I mean, really, the last 7 days is the worst 7 days I can remember in NFL news. But there's been some good news in there. George Kittle returning soon. Christian McCaffrey returning soon. Jameson Elite Crowder or Robert Woods? Oh, man. You probably have to go with Robert Woods. But I actually think Jameson Crowder is safer than Robert Woods this week. I actually think Jameson Crowder is safer than Robert Woods this week. I like Jameson Crowder this week. He had 9 targets last week. The Colts really haven't been very good against receivers. The Indianapolis Colts allowing the 9th most points to wide receivers this season. The Rams, though, they're up against the Titans. And the Titans have allowed the most points against receivers. So you almost have to play Robert Woods. You can't be benching Robert Woods. So play Robert Woods. But I do like Jameson Elite Crowder now. Gaskin or Michael Carter? Yeah, it's Carter. It's Carter. So if you're in a PPR league, you have to start Michael Carter. There's not that many running backs that have the upside of 10 targets. Really, you could probably list them all on one hand. If you were to look at all of the running backs that had a game, just one game with at least 10 targets, it's like Najee Harris, Alvin Kamara, Michael Carter. Like, it's a very short list. I might be missing one or two players there. Crowder or Higgins? We're talking about T. Higgins here. The Bengals are up against the Browns this week. Again, I think that T. Higgins is probably the better option in fantasy this week. I think he has a higher ceiling than Jameson Crowder. I would argue Jameson Crowder's floor is higher. But T. Higgins, 2 weeks ago he had 15 targets, and last week he had 6. 97 yards. Coming off a 97-yard game against the Jets. I would probably go T. Higgins if it was my fantasy decision, but if you're trying to play it safe and you're trying to enjoy Thursday night, then you got to play my guy Jameson Crowder. Yeah, I would go Crowder over Beasley as well. You think Wentz is an okay pick this week? Yeah, I do think he's an okay pick. I think he's a fine pick. I mean, the Jets aren't scary, guys. Don't be scared of the Jets. I know that they just beat the Bengals, and maybe there is a small chance Mike White is good. I mean, just threw for 400 yards, which is just insane against a pretty good Bengals defense. But I don't think he had the most impressive game. It's not like he was pushing the ball downfield very much. There's a full game of film on him now, which is not good for him. And yeah, the Jets haven't been very good really against any position. They're ranked 19th against quarterbacks this year. Carson Wentz, though, is fully healthy and it started to look a lot better. Marvin Jones or Jameson Elite Crowder? Man, the Jaguars receivers, guys, such a headache this season. The whole season. It's been so brutal. If you have any Jaguars receiver on your team, guys, Agnew has the receiver on the Jaguars named, I forget his first name. Let me pull this up. I feel bad. I don't know his first name. But his last name, Jamal Agnew. His name's Jamal Agnew. Led them in targets in the last couple of weeks. Not Marvin Jones, not Laviska Shenault, not James Robinson, not Dan Arnold. It's been Jamal Agnew. So no, don't start Marvin Jones. Just don't start him. And yeah, he has a decent ceiling. He is leading them in air yards. He has a good ceiling. But the Jaguars are just forced to throw the ball so much every week. But if you're going to be giving Jamal Agnew a 77% snap share and 12 targets, I don't want anything to do with anyone on the Jaguars that's not named James Robinson. And James Robinson's not even going to be playing. Thursday night question, would you go Crowder or Toney? Crowder or Kadarius Toney? Yeah, I would go Crowder. And Kadarius Toney is dealing with another injury. I would go with Jameson Elite Crowder over Kadarius Toney. Should I start Pittman? Yeah, Pittman's definitely on the must-start list. Pittman's been dominating, guys. Pittman has been dominating. Pittman is a must-start receiver right now against a Jets defense, allowing the 9th most fantasy points per game to wide receivers. The Jets are allowing the 9th most points per game to wide receivers and the most points per game to running backs. Will Pittman get back-to-back 25 or more points? Well, he's had back-to-back games over 20 points. He scored at least 20 in 3 of his last 4 games. And now he gets the Jets. It's very possible we see it. But he's probably going to need to score 2 touchdowns to do that. He's probably not going to score 2 touchdowns again. So probably not. But I do think he's going to go over 15 points. And I think he has a pretty safe floor. Yeah, so I'm starting. The only guys that I think are must-starts tonight, the must-start players tonight, Jonathan Taylor is the clear number one. Like anyone that has Jonathan Taylor, good job. He's doing great. Start. After Jonathan Taylor, it's Michael Pittman and Michael Carter. The 2 Michaels tonight you got to be riding with. And then Jameson Elite Crowder is the very last one. All right, let me pull up my top 10 tight ends. Judy or Renfro at wide receiver this week. Jerry Judy. It's got to be Jerry Judy. If Renfro does have an increased floor now, with no Henry Ruggs, I think Hunter Renfro's player prop that I saw today was 59.5 or something. So he's projected for 60 yards, which isn't bad. So I don't hate Hunter Renfro. I actually think he's a pretty safe play. Thursday, Crowder or Emmanuel Sanders? Yeah, it's Crowder. Didn't Emmanuel Sanders toss up a donut last week? I'm pretty sure he scored 0 points. And I'm not going to Emmanuel Sanders still has a pretty good ceiling. He has had plenty of deep targets this season. He's probably not going to go back-to-back games with 0 points. Yeah, 0 points. Guys, zero. He played 77% of the snaps. He ran 27 routes. He had 4 targets, 108 air yards, 0 points for Emmanuel Sanders. If there's anything that deserves benching in fantasy, is when someone puts up 0 points. Rashad Bateman. I just see a comment that just says Bateman. No context. Bateman or Crowder. Oh, that one is tough. I'm excited about Rashad Bateman. Like, very excited about Rashad Bateman. I liked Rashad Bateman coming out of college. I think he was ranked. If you go back, I actually posted a video on TikTok a while ago before the draft. That was my top prospects, wide receivers in the draft. Jamar Chase, by the way, was far and away number 1. And if you compared him to my previous years running the model, I built a machine learning model to predict rookie wide receiver performance. And Jamar Chase broke the model. Like, he was literally ahead of every historical wide receiver. But Rashad Bateman was high up there too, because he's good at everything. Fantastic route runner, great hands, and he's been pretty good in his first 2 games, and now he's coming off a bye week. He played at least 60% of the snaps. He had at least 6 targets. He had 6 targets in both games. So, yeah, I think I would probably go Rashad Bateman. QB rankings. Yeah, let me pull up my QB rankings, Zach. Thanks for calling that out. You can come to the YouTube Live, guys. We're live on TikTok and YouTube right now, and on the YouTube Live, link is in the TikTok bio. I have my top 10 quarterbacks, wide receivers, running backs, tight ends, and I'll show you picks against the spread and lots of times player props too, just on the bottom of the screen of the YouTube Live. So link is in the TikTok bio. You're like 3 presses of your finger away from the YouTube Live. It's also a little bit easier for me to pull up comments on the YouTube Live. Should I start Wentz or wait till Murray is okay? Or Derek Carr? Yeah, you probably have to wait for Kyler Murray. Now, I'm not sure Kyler Murray's playing this week. I feel like that's been a little bit lost in the crazy news. of the NFL recently too. But Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins both might not play this week. But it feels like they're probably going to. I do think Wentz is a good option, though. I would probably be playing Wentz over Derek Carr. Raiders get the Giants this week, who really haven't been very good. Renfro or Crowder? It's Crowder, man. It's Crowder. Devonte Smith or Jameson Crowder? Marcus, man, you just had to bring up Devonte Smith. Devonte Smith, I think, is my kryptonite this season. I like Devonte Smith so much. He was my most drafted wide receiver in best ball leagues, and the volume really has been there for Devonte Smith. Like, the ceiling for Devonte Smith is so high every week, and he doesn't have a good matchup this week. The Chargers have been really good against receivers. He's gone under 6 fantasy points in 2 of his last 3 games, under 12 points, 3 straight weeks. He hasn't finished as a top 12 wide receiver since week 4. He's only done it once this season. It was against the Chiefs. But last week was such a weird week for the Eagles. It really was just an insane game. Like, the Eagles, from the very beginning of that game, it was pretty clear they were just going to run the whole game. The Lions could do nothing about it. The Eagles defense was having their way with the Lions offense. It was a weird game. Not a good game for Devonte Smith. So I would argue that Marcus Jameson Crowder is like much, much, much safer than Devonte Smith. I would be playing Jameson Crowder over Devonte Smith, but Devonte Smith still has the higher ceiling. Carter or Chubb? You can't bench Nick Chubb. What are you talking about? Nick Chubb averaging almost 100 yards per game. No questions about Nick Chubb, man. Unless you're talking about Chuba Hubbard, in which case that one's much closer. I would still probably go Chuba Hubbard over Michael Carter. But I think you should start Michael Carter. Like, find a spot for Michael Carter. He had 14 targets last week. Mike Williams or Scary Terry. And Scary Terry, should I panic? Yeah, Charlie, it's definitely time to panic. But I wouldn't be selling either of these guys. I know Mike Williams has had back-to-back bad games, maybe even 3 straight, but he's going to bounce back. He's going to be somewhere between the bad games he's having now and the really great games he had at the beginning of the season. He's going to be like a 15 points per game type of guy. But he's a little bit more streaky than he was to start the season. Yo, Sam, and by the way, really quickly before I answer this question, Gabriel, this is why you don't do victory laps at the beginning of the season. Like, the beginning of the season is never the same as the whole season. 2 weeks into the season, Mike Williams, I'm pretty sure, was a top 3 fantasy football wide receiver. And people were doing victory laps about that. Crazy. Yo, Sam, I know it's Thursday, but will you trade Keenan Allen for DeAndre Swift? Yeah, 100% I would do that. DeAndre Swift leading the league in receiving yards at the running back position. Is Mixon from Mike Williams a good trade, and is Bryan Edwards a good pickup? I would not be trading Joe Mixon for Mike Williams. No, absolutely not. Running back, way, 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 way harder to find a running back like Joe Mixon than it is to find a receiver like Mike Williams. Because take a look, you basically have the Mike Williams light version on the waiver wire, Bryan Edwards. And if you've been following me from the beginning of the season, there was only one player I drafted on every single one of my teams this season. I'm in 6 different high-stakes fantasy leagues, thousands of dollars on the line. There's only one receiver I drafted in every league, and it was with my last pick, and it was Bryan Edwards. Because Bryan Edwards really checks so many boxes for a late-round pick. And he had a chance to be the number one wide receiver for the Raiders this season, and he has a chance now to do it for the rest of the season now that Henry Ruggs is gone. So yeah, he is a good target. He scored a touchdown last week. He hasn't had a game. I think he's only had 2 games with over 4 targets, 0 games with more than 5 targets. So the ceiling seems kind of low, but he could be into a higher volume role now. We'll see if they end up signing Deshaun Jackson. Jameson Crowder or Jarvis Landry. Yeah, definitely Jarvis Landry. It has to be Jarvis Landry, right? With the Browns without Odell Beckham Jr. And they're up against a Bengals defense that just got dominated by Jameson Crowder. Crowder put up 8 catches, 84 yards against them. Like that could easily beat the stat line for Jarvis Landry this week. So yeah, I would probably go Jarvis Landry. Crowder or Judy? Oh, God. So many Jameson Crowder questions tonight. This is fantastic. I'm so excited to watch Jameson Crowder tonight. I think that Jerry Judy is the better play. Judy has the higher ceiling for sure. Again, I don't think Jameson Crowder has that high of a ceiling tonight. Let's be very transparent about this. I think he has a very good floor. He's had at least 6 targets in every game. He had 9 targets last week. No Corey Davis. The Colts allowing the 9th most points to receivers this season. Jerry Judy only ran 20 routes last week, 4 targets. So his floor is pretty low. But we should also expect Jerry Judy to kind of slightly improve every single week coming off the injury. And the Broncos are up against the Eagles this week? No, they're up against the Cowboys. Yeah, I'd probably go Jerry Judy over Jameson Crowder for the ceiling. What should I do with A.J. Brown? Lena, we've talked about this on the live already. And by the way, guys, if you're first tuning in to the TikTok, hit the follow button. To the YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Really do appreciate that. We're trying to hit 5,000 YouTube subscribers this season. But if you have A.J. Brown, you're putting him into your starting lineup and you're not taking him out of your starting lineup for the rest of the season. We said this 4 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. And it's been true ever since. Mike White or Kirk Cousins, 1 point per completion scoring. That is an absolutely asinine scoring. That doesn't make any sense. 1 point per completion. Like, quarterbacks already score so many points. Yeah, you got to go Kirk Cousins. Definitely over Mike White. Mike White's still a massive wild card, though. 400 yards last game against a good Bengals defense. Michael Carter, Cole Beasley. Is this Will? Will, have you been watching? If you're watching on TikTok right now, we just got a question in the YouTube Live. Michael Carter, Cole Beasley, or Henry Ruggs? This is a real question. It's on the YouTube Live screen right now. I mean, Will, where have you been? Have you checked the news? Yeah, you got to go Michael Carter. You should be dropping Henry Ruggs, who's almost definitely never going to play in the NFL again. Carlos Hyde or Nicholson. Oh God, I like. If you and I'm assuming you meant McNichols, not Nicholson. Nicholson's not a real player, which is why I was confused when I first read that question. But McNichols, Jeremy McNichols, is a guy that I actually really like. And I do think Adrian Peterson, rest of the season, I won't be surprised if Adrian Peterson leads the Titans in carries. But I don't really care as much about carries as I care about targets. And it's Jeremy McNichols that's going to get all of the targets in the backfield. Jeremy McNichols was a pretty good receiver in college. And he's actually pretty athletic, smaller-sized running back. So, I think I would go Jeremy McNichols over Carlos Hyde. I don't like Carlos. Like, Carlos Hyde's just not good. What to do with Courtland Sutton? There's not that much you can do with Courtland Sutton. Like, you basically just have to start him in the good matchups and pray in the bad matchups. Carter or Jacobs in a PPR league. That is a good one, man. Papa Sam. I don't know why that always makes me laugh. But, yeah, I think that I would probably go Josh Jacobs over Michael Carter if it wasn't a PPR league. But it's a PPR league. And Michael Carter is going to get at least 5 catches tonight, like minimum 5 catches. That's 5 points in the bank right there for Michael Carter. I would probably go Michael Carter, honestly, over Josh Jacobs. Crowder or Boston Scott, thank you. You're great. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I would go Crowder over Boston Scott 100%. I like Scott, by the way. Scott is going up against arguably the worst rushing defense in the NFL with the Chargers. Papa Sam, who wins this trade? A.J. Brown, Kittle, and Javonte for Aaron Jones. Definitely the A.J. Brown side. I like Aaron Jones. I would argue Aaron Jones is the best player in the trade. But Kittle's back. Kittle's back probably this week, if not the next week. I actually think Devonta Williams has league-winning upside. Devonta Williams is a guy that's affordable right now in fantasy that you can go get. Will Pittman have a 20-plus point game tonight? Wouldn't shock me at all. Would not shock me at all. Bro, I had Henry and Calvin Ridley on my team. Yeah, bro, everyone just pour one out for that guy's fantasy team really quick. There's nothing you can do. There was nothing you could do. Sometimes in fantasy, there really is, there is luck involved. There's variance involved. It's not over for you yet, though. You're probably in a pretty good spot if you had Derrick Henry on your team. Like, it is not over. But yeah, I mean, if you lost Derrick Henry and Calvin Ridley, you're not in a very good spot right now. Jameson Crowder or Chuba Hubbard in a PPR league. So the Panthers are up against the Patriots this week. And we talked a lot about the Patriots on the live Sunday morning. I'm live every Sunday morning, by the way, basically from when I wake up till kickoff. And we were talking about how the Patriots, before their game last week, in the year 2021, they'd won 4 games, and 3 of those games were against the Jets. And it was huge. This was one of the biggest. I got to make a video about this week before their next game. But this was one of the biggest wins the Patriots have had, arguably the biggest win the Patriots have had since Tom Brady left. Like, if they lost this past week, they really were almost guaranteed to not even have any chance at the playoffs. And I think they're on a very good momentum swing right now. I could see the Patriots destroying the Panthers this week, but their run defense really hasn't been that good. So I still like Chuba Hubbard. But JJ, it's not a lock that Christian McCaffrey isn't back. Like, Christian McCaffrey could be back. And so you got to take that into account to this decision too. Because if Christian McCaffrey's back, Chuba Hubbard's basically just a handcuff. So I think I would go Jameson Crowder. Michael Carter. Should I panic on Saquon? Henry, no. There's no reason to panic now. Like, just wait another week or two. He tested positive, but he also had an ankle injury, so I wasn't even sure he was going to play this week anyway. Hopefully the ankle heals in the next week, and he can be back for the following week, and Saquon Barkley can come back and win fantasy leagues. So no, don't panic about Saquon Barkley. Cortland Sutton or Jameson Crowder. This one's good, man. This one's good. And I know I'm telling a lot of people to start Jameson Crowder tonight, and I was already going to be very disappointed if Jameson Crowder had a bad game because, like I mentioned earlier, I'm on every single Jameson Crowder prop tonight. I like his receptions prop. I like his receiving yards prop. I like his touchdown prop. I took him as the first touchdown scorer too, which is, by the way, it's the single worst bet you could possibly make in sports betting. His first touchdown. But part of betting is just for the fun. So I don't hate it. I think it was like plus 1,400 or something like that. Michael Carter or Darrell. But yeah, I would probably go Cortland Sutton to answer the question. Michael Carter or Darrell Williams. Definitely Michael Carter. It's definitely Michael Carter. Honestly, I don't think this one's very close, especially if this is a PPR league. It's Michael Carter over Darrell Williams, and it's honestly not that close. Guys, if you're watching live on YouTube, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you are watching live on TikTok, guys, hit the follow button. If you're not following me yet, hit the follow button. I'm going to try to answer as many comments as I can, I promise. Sleepiest, deepest, darkest play. Sleepiest, deepest, darkest play in FanDuel or cheap guy who can get points. Yeah, I think that the sleepiest, deepest, darkest play, probably either Elijah Moore or Ty Johnson. It's probably Elijah Moore or Ty Johnson. Both guys. Corey Davis is out tonight. And we know Mike White likes to dump it down. Ty Johnson actually has been pretty involved as well. I think it's one of those two guys. I also think a super deep sleeper tonight, maybe the sleepiest, deepest of all, is Nyheim Hines, who Nyheim Hines has been very, very quiet. Very, very quiet the past few games, really like most of the season. And Jonathan Taylor had his highest snap share of the season last week. But he's coming off a short week now. And the Jets have allowed by far, like it's not even close, the most receiving yards per game to running backs this season. So it is a pretty good matchup for Nyheim Hines. So I don't hate Nyheim Hines as a super deep sleeper tonight either. Thursday night question. Let's see it. Please pick 3 of Derek Gore. We got an email this morning. Yo, add Derek Gore to your app, and we did instantly. Derek Gore in the WalterPicks app now, in the trade analyzer, in the start sit tool. Guys, if you haven't checked out the WalterPicks app yet, you got to check it out. It helps you with all your start sit decisions and all your trades. Also helps you with all your DraftKings and FanDuel decisions, and also all your player prop decisions. So try it out, man. Completely free to download and try. If you want to try any of the premium subscriptions, completely free 7-day trial. All right, Derek Gore, Javonte Williams, Nyheim Hines, Tim Patrick, and Brian Edwards. Happy PR. Thanks, man. Yeah, the most obvious one here is Javonte Williams. I think he's pretty clearly above the rest. I don't think you can be trusting Derek Gore. Like, I would not be trusting Derek Gore. Though I do think the Chiefs could destroy the Packers now in this game without Aaron Rodgers. Like, I'm not very confident about Jordan Love. I think Jordan Love could completely tank. But Javonte Williams is definitely ahead above all these other guys. I think I would probably go Brian Edwards and Nyheim Hines next. Tim Patrick's an interesting one too, but with Jerry Judy back, his floor is really low. The two obvious ones for me here, though, are Devonta Williams and Brian Edwards. I don't hate Nyheim Hines tonight either, though. Again, Jameson Crowder will drop 20. Yeah, we're all in on Jameson Lee Crowder tonight. I'm starting him in multiple leagues. I think I'm starting him in 3 out of my 6 high-stakes fantasy leagues. I'm taking his receiving prop. I think it's over 58.5 receiving yards. I'm taking his reception prop over 5.5 receptions. I'm taking his touchdown prop. It's like plus 250 or something for him to score a touchdown. Taking him first touchdown of the game, too, which is like plus 40. We're all in on Crowder. I see a Crowder or Sutton question in the TikTok live. And yeah, you probably should start Sutton. Like, let's be real. Sutton is the superior fantasy football player. I think Jameson Crowder has a really good floor tonight. He saw 9 targets last week, turned that into 8 catches, 80 yards. And he gets a better matchup this week than he had last week. And I also think that, like, the Colts are probably going to destroy the Jets in this game. They're 10.5-point favorites. I think there's a better chance that the Jets get completely blown out in this game than there is that the Jets win. And I'm taking the Colts as 10.5-point favorites. But you probably should go Courtland Sutton. He hasn't been good in back-to-back weeks, under 12 fantasy points back-to-back weeks. And I know Gary Judy's back. He gets the Eagles. They're not a very good matchup. I feel like I'm talking myself into saying Jameson Crowder over Courtland Sutton, but it doesn't feel good to say that, honestly. Jameson Crowder, Pittman, or DeAndre Hopkins. Oh, man, we're asking Jameson Elite Crowder versus DeAndre Hopkins. Hopkins is injured, too. I mean, this is a real question right now. Hopkins injured. We're not sure Hopkins is even going to play. But you got to go Pittman, definitely. You have to start Pittman. You want to start DeAndre Hopkins, too, but it's a little risky on a Thursday night because we don't know if he's actually going to play. Like, he missed basically the entire last game. I wanted to answer this question. I thought this was a good one. Let me see if I can find it again. In the YouTube live. Guys, we are live on TikTok and YouTube. Let me pull up on the YouTube live. You can see my top 10 running backs of the week. And guys, you'll see it number 1. Look who's at number 1 of my top 10 running backs. You can see this on the YouTube live. Link is in the TikTok bio. It's none other than Jonathan Taylor. My number 1 overall running back this week, heading into week 9, is Jonathan Taylor. Guys, I mean, Jonathan Taylor could easily go for 200 yards tonight. Like, he has 200 yards in his range of outcomes against the Jets. Like, I will not be that surprised. Mike Williams or Jameson Crowder? Definitely Mike Williams. Papa Sam, would you hold Chuba Hubbard on your bench, even if you need bench space, or drop him? Yeah, you got to keep holding him because he might play this week. And if he plays this week, he has value. But once Christian McCaffrey's back, you do not need to hold him, especially if you need the spot. What's your opinion on having a running back and a wide receiver on the same team? Example, Devonte Adams, that was the question I was looking for. Someone asked, is Devonte Adams a safe play this week? Yeah, he still is a safe play. I think we still have Devonte Adams as the top 10 wide receiver. Let me pull up my wide receivers really quick. Yeah, he's still number 2. He's literally number 2. And this is updated for the Aaron Rodgers news. So yeah, you got to start Devonte Adams. But yeah, it depends. Caleb, I think my answer to this question is it depends. If it's guys like Devonte Adams and Aaron Jones, like the volume is very concentrated in the Packers offense for both those guys. So that's totally fine. And I think in season-long fantasy leagues, having 2 guys on the same team really raises the floor of your team. I think it lowers the ceiling slightly. But the odds that at least one of them has a good game, or that at least you can think of it this way, the odds that at least one of them has a touchdown is increased compared to any other 2 players. But the odds that both of them score touchdowns is a little bit low, if that makes sense. So I'd say the floor rises, the ceiling falls a little. Carter or Patterson? That's a good one. I mean, you can't be benching Cordell Patterson right now. Both guys are really good in PPR. Do I start Michael Carter over Joe Mixon? No. But guys, Michael Carter, get him into your lineup. So you got to find a spot for him. I wouldn't start him over Cordero Patterson. But Michael Carter had 14 targets last week. If you're in a PPR league, man, Michael Carter all day long. Crowder, Tony, or Julio at flex. I would be playing Jameson Crowder over Tony 100%. And I'd probably play him over Julio Jones too. And I don't think we're for sure even know Julio Jones is playing. Does Renfrow and Waller's value go up because of Ruggs? Yeah, it does. 100% it does. Every receiver, Brian Edwards' value goes up too. I just saw a question in the TikTok chat. Should I drop Henry Ruggs? Yeah. I mean, he's 100% done for the season, but he's probably never going to be in the NFL ever again. Mike White or Taysom Hill? This one's good. This one's a good one. Mike White versus Taysom Hill. And honestly, I would go ask you, is Ryan Tannehill available on the waiver wire? Because I like Ryan Tannehill more than both of them. But I think actually that I would argue that Taysom Hill has a lower ceiling than Mike White this week. But we also don't know Taysom Hill's 100% playing. It does feel like he's trending towards playing. Let's assume he's playing. If we assume Taysom Hill is playing, I think I would go with Mike White. I think I would go with Mike White over Taysom Hill. Mike White just threw for 400 yards. Taysom Hill he's probably not even going to throw for 200 yards. Like, we know the rushing is there, though. And the Colts secondary isn't that scary. Hill or Love? Yeah, I would. Those are two guys that I'm like. I think both Taysom Hill and Jordan Love are like complete traps this week. I'm probably going to bet against both of them this week. But if I had to choose one, it'd probably be Jordan Love. Again, I just feel like Taysom Hill's floor is just going to be so low. If you've seen the times where Taysom Hill has played this season, he really is not a quarterback. He's a running back. Kadarius Toney, 100 yards this week, book it, says Greg Frazier. Greg actually has had a good history of calling things like this. He's saying Kadarius Toney over 100 yards this week, book it. I don't hate it. They get the Raiders this week. The Raiders, let's just take a quick look at the Raiders, how they've done against receivers this season. They've actually been the fourth best team in the NFL against receivers this season. I don't feel great. About Kadarius Toney, I'm not going to lie. And Kenny Golladay also might be returning. But again, I don't want to pick against Greg. What do I do with Scary Terry? Charlie, I see your comment, man. A lot of people asking about Scary Terry McLaurin. And you just got to hold on to him. I mean, you got to hold on to him. The talent's there. The volume's going to come. You're not going to sell low. You probably need to start him. I mean, I think he's on bye this week. I'm pretty sure Washington's on bye this week. But you're going to have to start him when he comes back after the bye. He's gotten under 10 points in 3 of his last 4 games. But he's seen at least 7 targets in every single game since week 1. So Terry McLaurin's still a solid wide receiver too. Kittle or Gesicki? Let me pull up my tight end rankings. I don't know if Kittle's even in here. I don't know if I had Kittle playing this week. Yeah, he's not in here. But you see Mike Gesicki's ranked at number 5. Gesicki, guys, no tight end has scored more points than Mike Gesicki over the last 3 weeks. Over the last 3 weeks, not a single tight end has scored more fantasy points than Michael Gesicki. I'm going to plug into my charger here. Going to lose the TikTok live. But yeah, I would still probably go Kittle. All that being said, I don't think Mike Gesicki's a top 4 tight end. I haven't ranked him number 5. But with Kittle, if Kittle's back this week, Jacob, I would be going with Kittle. I mean, Kittle's just so much better than Mike Gesicki. Yo, Sam, Swift and Woods for Terry and Robinson. No, definitely not. I like James Robinson. James Robinson is he has a good playoff schedule. I like Terry McLaurin, but he's pretty comparable to Robert Woods. And Swift is just like the receiving volume is just so big for Swift. Though Robinson, I did post a video. He's one of the guys I think you should trade for. Actually, the more I look at this trade, Dominic, the more I like it. Swift and Robinson are really comparable, both in really bad offenses. I say Swift has a lot higher receiving role, but Robinson has a much safer rushing role. Woods versus Terry McLaurin, like these guys are really similar. It's a pretty fair trade. Dominic, I'm very interested to wonder what the WalterPicks app, the trade analyzer in the WalterPicks app, would say about this one. Elijah Moore and Ty Johnson, or Jameson Crowder and Jack Doyle for tonight. Yeah, I think the Jets have weirdly been like really good against tight ends. Let me just confirm this. I got this info right in front of me. No, that's incorrect. They've been the 10th worst team against the Jets. They've been the 10th worst team against the tight ends. Elijah Moore. I would go Elijah Moore and Ty Johnson. I think I'd go Elijah Moore and Ty Johnson. I do like Jameson Crowder tonight. I don't love Jack Doyle. But Ty Johnson's, I think, just way better than Jack Doyle. Prize picks. Saw something about prize picks. Prize picks. Yeah, Adam. There's lots of good ones. There's 3. We have 3 prop picks in the WalterPicks app tonight. One thing I can tell you, I'm in on all the Jameson Crowder props tonight. I like his receptions prop. I think his receptions prop is actually 5 on prize picks, which is pretty solid. I think it's like 5.5 pretty much everywhere else. He's going to get at least 5 catches tonight. He had 9 targets last week. And Corey Davis is out again. Do you think Devontae Parker will be a top 15 wide receiver rest of the season? Do I think Devontae Parker will be a top 15 wide receiver rest of the season? I think top 15 is going to be very tough for him. But I do think he's going to be a top 24 wide receiver. Like I think he's going to be a solid wide receiver too. He's done well basically every single game he's played. He has at least 8 fantasy points in every single game. He's gone over 12 points 3 out of his 5 games. He really has seen really consistent volume. He's ran at least 30 routes in almost every single game he's played. He doesn't have a game with less than 7 targets. He just did really well against a pretty good Buffalo Bills secondary. So yeah, I think he has the potential to be top 15. I would say closer to, I would expect closer to top 24. What's even wrong with Corey Davis? That's a good question. I'm not exactly sure. He's been out for how many weeks now? I think 2. I think he's missed 2 weeks, but he missed games earlier in the season too. I can pull this up though. I'll let you know. What's wrong with Corey Davis? Anyone in the comments know, you can let us know. I'm pulling it up right now. Corey Davis, it's a hip injury. That's not good. Yeah, it's a hip injury. He's been out for 2 weeks with a hip injury. Carlos Hyde or Ty Johnson? Yeah, we don't know if James Robinson's playing or not. And if James Robinson isn't playing, then I would be going with. If James Robinson isn't playing, then I would definitely be going with Carlos Hyde. But I think James Robinson's probably going to play, so I think I would probably go Ty Johnson over Carlos Hyde. I think Carlos Hyde's also just like not good. Bateman or Claypool? Rashad Bateman or Chase Claypool? It's got to be Claypool. It's got to be Chase Claypool. Van Jefferson or Emmanuel Sanders? Yeah, Emmanuel Sanders tossed up a donut last week. Like, he's not going to do that again. But if there's ever a reason to bench someone in your fantasy league, it's because they put up 0 points last week. What are your thoughts on Bryan Edwards going forward? Yeah, if you followed me from the beginning of the season, you know there was only one player I drafted on every single one of my fantasy teams, my 6 high-stakes fantasy leagues. My last pick of every single league was Bryan Edwards. He was since dropped in a lot of leagues. But I picked him back up in, I think, all 6 leagues. Bryan Edwards is a guy that I think you should add. He hasn't had a game with more than 5 targets this season, but that could definitely change with Henry Ruggs out of the picture. So, yeah, I think he has a pretty exciting opportunity ahead of him for the rest of the season. Pittman or Cooks? You got to go Cooks over Pittman. I like Pittman a lot. What's wrong with Kelsey? There's nothing wrong with Kelsey. He's going to be fine. Travis Kelsey will be fine. He's had a couple bad games. Should I drop Rondo Moore or Allen Robinson for Bryan Edwards? For bench, not to start. Yeah. This one's tough. I mean, Allen Robinson has been in this spot really from the beginning of the season. He's not good enough to start, but we also all know how good Allen Robinson is, so it feels really wrong benching, like dropping him. Like, I would not drop Allen Robinson for Bryan Edwards. Rondo Moore is much closer for me, but I still think I'd prefer Rondo Moore over Bryan Edwards. Should I trade Robert Woods? And if yes, for who? No, I don't think you should trade Robert Woods. Matthew Stafford, guys. is really cooking on all cylinders. Stafford's having arguably his best season of his career. The Rams are just dominating teams. And it's a big part because of Matthew Stafford. And I know Cooper Kupp's been the main beneficiary, but Stafford has the second most passing touchdowns in the league. He's thrown the third most air yards in the league. He's the second most passing yards in the league. Second highest yards per attempt, fifth highest completion percentage. Like, Matthew Stafford's dominating, guys. You want Robert Woods. You want Cooper Kupp. Ayo, Sam, Pascal, Boyd, or Bryan Edwards? Half PPR. Yeah, it's got to be Boyd there. Do I start Pitts and Patterson? Yeah, you got to start both those guys. Tied Crowder or Landry? I got this one earlier. I think without Odell Beckham Jr. in the picture, you got to go with Jarvis Landry. All right, we're getting an invitation right now from Jets.WalterPicks. We're going to bring him onto the YouTube live, the TikTok live.
I came on here to say one thing.
What's up, Brian?
Jets by $1 million and Mike White for MVP. Okay.
All right, you heard it here. The Jets by $1 million. Yo, I honestly, Ryan, really quickly while I have you here, I've been saying tonight, I do feel like there's a better chance that the Jets get blown out in this game than there is that they win this game.
I think you're covering the mic, by the way. I think you're covering your mic.
I think there's a better chance that the Jets get blown out in this game than that they win this game.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just being positive. I haven't been this excited for a Jets team all season long, so it's good to have some excitement.
Yeah.
I think it probably ends up being low scoring, and because of that, we really can't get blown out if there's not many points on the board total. So that's a good thing, but I do think you're right. I do think Colts are going to win, but Mike White for MVP. Yeah,
I mean, 400-yard game. It's going to be tough for him to top. Brian, thanks for hopping on, though. A very realistic Jets fan. Make sure you're following Ryan at Jets.WalterPicks. But you heard Ryan right there. First he said Jets by $1 million, and then very quickly went back to being a rational Jets fan, which you can always count on Ryan for being a rational Jets fan. And very quickly he went back to, yeah, I mean, they're probably going to lose. But I agree with him. I won't be shocked if this is a low-scoring game. This could definitely be a low-scoring game. Hey, Sam, hope you had a good day. Thanks, man. Miles, I appreciate that in the YouTube Live. Should I trade Sutton? And if yes, for who? Yeah, I don't hate trading Courtland Sutton right now. I think, honestly, we talked about Devonte Smith earlier in this live. I don't think Devonte Smith's the worst guy to go get. You're not going to be starting Devonte Smith this week, but Devonte Smith has a very, very good playoff schedule. He gets Washington twice, and then in between the Washington games, he gets the Giants. And he's seeing still top 15 in the league in air yards. So I don't hate going to get Devonte Smith, who's basically free right now in fantasy. Like, anyone who has Devonte Smith, not going to take very much. Thank you for the help with the picks. Parker, I got you, man. Thoughts on Julio? Yeah, man, I just want to see a healthy Julio Jones. I think that's all anyone wants to see. Because all Julio Jones, when healthy, has ever done is dominate. Michael Carter thoughts, you got to start Michael Carter tonight. You have to start Michael Carter tonight. Who has more yards tonight? The most yards? Or more, like, who has more yards than who? T. Higgins, Khalil Herbert, or Jameson Crowder? Khalil Herbert's been just the definition of consistent. He really has impressed me. And I think he's carved out a role moving forward, even when David Montgomery returns. T. Higgins, I think, is a better option than Jameson Crowder also. But I like Jameson Crowder tonight. I do like Jameson Crowder tonight. Yo, Sam, trade Swift for Saquon and Deontay Johnson? Yes. Yes, 100%. If you are already in the fantasy football playoffs, guys, we're live on TikTok and YouTube right now. That question was from the YouTube Live. Thoughts on Jonathan Taylor? Yeah, he's my number one overall running back this week. But really quickly, if you are already in the fantasy football playoffs, or you're like 1 or 2 wins away from the fantasy football playoffs, which I know some of you listening are, because the vast majority of people that tune into the show are just smarter fantasy players. Like, we just attract a smart fantasy audience. Honestly, in the comment section, 2 weeks ago, everyone was yelling to go add Michael Carter. Like 2 weeks ago, everyone was adding Michael Carter in the comment section. And now we are 2 weeks later, Michael Carter's a must-start fantasy option. He's had at least 9 targets in back-to-back weeks. But back to the original point. If you are really close to the fantasy football playoffs, you need to be making moves exactly like this one. DeAndre Swift for Saquon and Deontay Johnson. Like, Saquon's going to be out this week. He could maybe even miss one more week because he's dealing with an ankle injury. But when he's back, he's better than DeAndre Swift. And then Deontay Johnson is also a solid wide receiver too. Like, you got to make moves with the playoffs in mind. That's the point. You got to make moves with the playoffs in mind. You got to go get guys like Devonte Smith, who have an amazing playoff schedule. You got to go get guys like James Robinson, who also has an amazing playoff schedule. Devonta Williams, league-winning upside. Nick Chubb, amazing upside. Like, you got to plan for the playoffs. Plan for the playoffs. Go look at the schedules. Plan for the playoffs. AB, rest of season. Sam, I just traded Hurts for 2022 first, 2023 first, and 2023 second. Hopefully that's a super flex league, because if not, I mean, that's just an absolute robbery. But I don't hate it. Jalen Hurts has really kind of struggled in recent weeks. But if he keeps the starting role for the Eagles moving forward, I mean, he has been a top 5 quarterback this season. Maybe he's outside the top 5 now. Thank you so much, Sam. I got you, man. Sharp or Pascal? Yeah, I mean, Tajay Sharp's going to lead the Falcons in receiving. He's going to lead the receivers in receiving, at least. And it depends if you count Cordero Patterson as a receiver or not. Gaskin or Crowder? Gaskin's in such a good spot this week. Oh, man. You kind of have to play Gaskin. It's a 1 QB league. Yeah, I mean, that's a complete robbery, by the way. That's insane. What should I do with Christian McCaffrey? You should hold on to Christian McCaffrey. Again, this is the perfect guy to go get if you are already in the fantasy playoffs. Christian McCaffrey has gone over 20 fantasy points in over 90% of his games. So yeah, you gotta go with Christian McCaffrey. Guys, we got like 10 minutes left of the stream. I always end my live streams on YouTube. Part of the reason it's easier to answer the questions on YouTube, I can pull them up on the screen super easily. So come to the YouTube live. If you're watching live on TikTok, for the last 10 minutes, I'll go rapid fire answering as many questions as I possibly can. If not, thank you so much for tuning in. And I'll be back live Sunday morning. Good luck tonight, guys. Have a good one. We'll be live on YouTube for the next 10 minutes. Link is in the TikTok bio. All right. We're live just on YouTube now, guys. I'm going to go rapid fire in the comment section. I appreciate everyone tuning in. As I always say on these live streams, I try to make it a point to say at least once. Thank you for tuning in. I think time is the most valuable thing we have. So I appreciate you spending some time with me tonight. Woods or Keenan Allen? Keenan Allen has really disappointed this season. We called it last week, though. If you listen to the Sunday morning live, Keenan Allen he had a better matchup than Mike Williams, and that's why we started Keenan Allen over Mike Williams last week, and that was a W. That was a W for the entire stream last week. But I think I would probably go this week. Yeah, Keenan Allen had almost 20 points last week. The Chargers are up against the Eagles, and the Rams, they're up against the Titans, man. It's Robert Woods. It's got to be Robert Woods. We just talked about Matthew Stafford, how good he's been. It's got to be Robert Woods. Who gets more targets tonight, Crowder or Carter? Oh, Adam. This is a good one, man. So Michael Carter's coming off a 14-target game. Jameson Crowder coming off a 9-target game. But honestly, I think you have to go Jameson Crowder in this question. But I think both – I mean, it's a good question. Like, either guy could easily go over 10 targets. Michael Carter's really impressed me. What do you think of Damian Harris for the rest of the season? Yeah, he's got a much harder schedule rest of season than he has had so far. The Patriots have played the Jets twice already. They've already played the Dolphins. Like, they've had a really easy beginning of the year. And they just played the Chargers, who are the bottom rush defense in the NFL. The Cowboys also kind of struggle against the run. But the Patriots are a run-first team. Make no mistake about it. So I think he's going to get 15-plus carries on average through the rest of the season. So I think he's a solid running back, too. Touchdown-dependent running back, too. But the touchdowns will be there. Cooper, Pittman, Woods, pick 2. I'd probably go with the first 2. There's a little uncertainty around Amari Cooper right now. And it feels like Dak's going to play this week. And I think Cooper's going to play this week, too. So I think I'd go the first 2 guys. But definitely start Pittman tonight. Should I trade Brandon Cooks and Goddard for A.J. Brown? Yeah, 100%. No, don't include Pitts instead of Goddard. Pitts has a tough schedule, but Pitts is the number 1 receiver on the Falcons. And obviously, opposing teams are going to know this. Like, it's not going to be easy for Kyle Pitts to have a good rest of the season, but Kyle Pitts is good enough to still have a good rest of the season. And don't get me wrong, Goddard's been, like, he's much better now without Zach Ertz. He is a solid tight end 1, top 10 tight end. But Kyle Pitts is in a whole nother tier. So, yeah, definitely do that first trade. A.J. Brown is a huge upgrade over Brandon Cooks. A.J. Brown, top 10 wide receiver, and there's really no question about it. Dak or Stafford? This is a good one. I think Dak Prescott is probably a worse option than Matthew Stafford. The Titans' defense really, really has been atrocious in the secondary. They're allowing the most receiving yards per game to receivers. Cooper Kupp, his over-under this week is 99.5. Like, he's going to go over 100 yards. And I think Robert Woods going to have a big week, too. I'd probably go Matthew Stafford. Let me pull up my QB rankings again really quickly. And then I feel like I'm struggling going rapid fire. Let me go a little bit faster. Chuba Hubbard or DJ Moore. I'd probably go DJ Moore. Hey, Sam, thoughts on trading Kamara for Zeke? I mean, it's a pretty fair trade. I don't really understand trades like this, though, like a 1-for-1, same position. Like, how could both sides convince themselves both sides are benefiting from the trade? I mean, personally, I think I would prefer Zeke with the Jameis Winston injury, but I still don't really understand the trade. Should I start Boston Scott or Zach Moss? Definitely Zach Moss. Dak/Mike Williams for Pat/AJ. I get AJ. Are you also getting Patrick Mahomes? I mean, you're getting the better quarterback and the better receiver. And Mahomes probably hasn't been as good as Dak fantasy-wise this season. But yeah, I mean, that's robbery. You're getting the better player on both sides of the deal. Please and thank you. Should I trade? I appreciate the manners. Please and thank you. Should I trade Jonathan Taylor for Tyreek Hill in a half PPR? You're the best. Dalton, thanks, man. I appreciate that. I don't think you should. And my reason for this, in most leagues, I think elite running backs are just harder to get than wide receivers. Like, it's very, very, very uncommon for running backs to just come out of nowhere, but you can kind of scrape together receivers sometimes. So Jonathan Taylor's gone over 100 yards, I think 4 straight games. He's my number 1 overall running back this week against the Jets. I think you got to keep Jonathan Taylor. You got to ride the hot hand. He also had a season high snap share last week. We saw what happened with Jonathan Taylor at the end of last season too. Like, Jonathan Taylor to me has more league winning upside than Tyreek Hill. Hey Sam, hope you're having a good day. Thanks, man. Sit 1, start 1. Goddard or Gesicki. Yeah, I have Gesicki, I think, ranked ahead of Goddard this week. 1 spot ahead of Goddard. So this is a good question. And let's just look at the matchups really quickly. The Dolphins are up against the Ravens. And the Ravens actually quietly, I was digging into the numbers a little bit more this week. And the Ravens actually quietly, if you adjust for strength of opponent, you adjust for touchdowns too. The Ravens have actually had a much worse defense than I would have thought. And they've also allowed the most points per game to tight ends this season. 28 points to CJ Uzama last week. They let up 12 points to Jared Cook the week before, 16 points to Noah Fant 2 weeks before that, 28 points to Travis Kelce, 27 points to Darren Waller. And Gesicki's been on a tear, guys. No tight end has scored more fantasy points than Mike Gesicki over the last 3 weeks. He's had 20 points, 21 points, and 11 points. So yeah, it's Gesicki. And I do like Goddard. And I think the Chargers maybe also haven't been the best against tight ends. But yeah, I would go with Gesicki. Antonio Brown rest of season. I think he's going to be a boom and bust wide receiver too. That's kind of what he's been this season. Like, he has the ceiling when healthy. But also, we don't really know when he's going to be back. And the Buccaneers are going to keep winning games without him. I feel like they're not very incentivized to rush him back. Hey, Sam, thoughts on McLaurin and Mike Williams? Yeah, I think both guys are – but it feels like people are down on both these guys right now. Both are going to be fine. They're both wide receiver 2s rest of the season. McLaurin, has had at least 7 targets in, I think, every single game since week 1. Mike Williams, he's not going to be what we were seeing in the first couple of weeks of the season, but he's also not going to be what we've seen the last couple of weeks. Like, I think he's going to be somewhere in between that, like a 15 points per game kind of guy. And when he scores a touchdown, he has a chance to be a top 12 receiver. Crowder, Edmonds, Myers, or Boyd. Yeah, I got to try to prioritize these Thursday night questions. The Patriots up against the Panthers this week, and I think they're playing against Stephon Gilmore, which is going to be interesting. Honestly, out of all these guys, the guy I'm most confident scoring at least 10 points is Jameson Crowder. So I do like Chase Edmonds a lot too. And I think Chase Edmonds has a similar floor, but probably higher ceiling than Jameson Crowder. So I'd go between those 2 guys. I traded Sutton, Gibson, and Allen for Tyreek, Michael Carter, and Emmanuel Sanders. Thoughts? Sutton, Gibson, and Allen for Tyreek, Michael Carter, and Emmanuel Sanders. Thoughts? Yeah, I don't hate this one. You got the best player in the trade, first of all, with Tyreek Hill. And Michael Carter versus Antonio Gibson. Like, are any of us going to be that surprised when Michael Carter outscores Antonio Gibson the rest of the season? Like, Antonio Gibson all of a sudden is really like a cratering asset in fantasy. Somehow I managed to trade away Antonio Gibson and Antonio Brown, by the way, for Nick Chubb in one of my high-stakes leagues, like right before they both tanked. Deontay Johnson or Pittman? Yeah, you got to go Deontay Johnson. Definitely Deontay Johnson. You got to start Deontay Johnson this week. The Steelers up against the Lions. Sorry, the Steelers up against the Bears this week on Monday Night Football. Deontay Johnson's been feasting every week. He's the clear wide receiver 1 for the Steelers. And the Bears, guys, have struggled against receivers. It's why Deebo Samuel was a lock in the WalterPicks app, player props last week, and he goes for 177 yards. Like, Deontay Johnson, guys, he's gotten over 15 fantasy points every single week this season. 6 consecutive games with 15 fantasy points. 6 consecutive games with at least 70 yards. 5 consecutive games with at least 70 yards. He's had at least 70 yards or a touchdown in every single game this season, man. He's balled out. And he's consistent, too, which is rare at the receiver position. Bateman or Van Jefferson? Yeah, I'd go Bateman, but I am excited about Van Jefferson. Keenan Allen or Michael Pittman? I would go Pittman. Crowder or Landry this week? Yeah, I've gotten this one a lot. I do like Crowder a lot this week. I still think I would go Landry. Do I start Ty Jonathan and Singletary? We have 5 minutes. Yeah, we got 5 minutes. Make sure we are getting to the Thursday night questions. I feel like you got to go Singletary. I think Ty Johnson is like kind of a sneaky play, but the Bills matchup is really good this week. They play the Jaguars. They're going to destroy them, right? They do play the Jaguars. I'm not wrong about that. Yeah, they play the Jaguars. They're 14.5-point favorites. You got to go Singletary. Hey, Sam, Taylor and Chase for CMC. I get Taylor. Yeah, I would do this. I would do this 100%. This is the perfect trade to make, especially if you're not in the playoffs yet. But yeah, Taylor versus CMC is not going to be that big of a difference. And Jamar Chase is top 10, arguably top 5 receiver. Mixon, Gaskin, or Michael Carter, pick 2. You have to start Michael Carter if it's a PPR league, and then it's Joe Mixon. I like Gaskin this week too, though. Wentz or Mahomes? Come on, man. It's Mahomes. You skipped me. Please, Sam, advice. Pick 2 from Jameson Crowder, Brian Edwards, Ayuk, Devonte Smith, and Myers. First of all, start Crowder tonight. Definitely start Jameson Crowder tonight. So we're going between Edwards, Ayuk, Devonte Smith, and Myers. I actually do think Ayuk could have a good week this week, but of course, we're not going to be overconfident with Ayuk. Ayuk or the Bazooka has been really just one of the most disappointing players this season. You can't start Devonte Smith this week, though, because Devonte Smith's up against the Chargers. They've been so good against receivers. And I think you're really shouldn't be starting Myers either against the Panthers. So you're between Brian Edwards and Ayuk. I think I would go Ayuk. Wentz or Mahomes? It's got to be Mahomes. I got 5 minutes. CeeDee Lamb or Michael Pittman. It's definitely CeeDee Lamb. That one's not even close. All right, I got time for 2 more questions. 2 more. Let's get 2 more Thursday night questions in. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Again, if you haven't hit that like and subscribe button yet, make sure you're doing that. I hope we're all very excited to watch Jameson Crowder either make us all very happy or all very sad. Mike Williams or Cooks this week. I think I would probably go with Cooks over Mike Williams. Elijah Moore or Nyheim Hines tonight. We're going to end on this one, Nicholas. Elijah Moore or Nyheim Hines. This one's really close. And we talked about both these guys at some points in the stream. The Jets have allowed the most receiving yards per game to running backs this season. So this is the ideal matchup for Nyheim Hines. But on the other side of that, the Jets are 10.5-point underdogs, which is a good sign for Elijah Moore. Personally, though, I think I'd go Nyheim Hines. I think Nyheim Hines is a safer option there. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back live, as always, Sunday morning, and we'll talk soon. Have a fantastic night. Have a fantastic weekend. I'll see you all Sunday morning.